Hey guys, tonight we're rewinding to ancient Greece, not for heroic battles or tragic love stories, but for something far more relatable. A goddess struggling to wake up on time. Seriously, if you think hitting snooze is a modern problem, wait until you hear about Athena's eternal battle against oversleeping. You'd think being the goddess of wisdom meant flawless mornings, right? Think again. By the way, if you've ever slept through an important meeting, this story might make you feel better. Or worse. Hard to say. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is there. I'm always curious which corners of the world drift off with these tales. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine you're perched on a cool marble ledge inside Mount Olympus. Not as a god, just a very quiet, unassuming little fly on the wall, literally. Below you, dawn is breaking over the Aegean Sea, painting the clouds peach and gold. It's breathtaking, obviously. But inside the halls of the gods, utter chaos. Hermes is zipping past on winged sandals, nearly knocking over a vase of ambrosia. Apollo's tuning his lyre like it offended him. And over in the corner, Poseidon's grumbling about tidal charts. Typical Tuesday. Your focus drifts to Athena's chamber. The door is slightly ajar. Inside, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and literally weaving is snoring. Softly, elegantly, but undeniably asleep. Her owl, Noctua, blinks at you from a perch, feathers puffed in resignation. See, Athena had a 7 a.m. strategy session with Zeus about border disputes in Thessaly. It's now 7:03. Here's the mainstream nugget. Greek gods didn't need sleep like mortals. They chose it for pleasure or meditation. But Athena, she'd been up all night brainstorming siege engine improvements. Overachiever, even by God standards. The cold truth? Divine powers don't prevent burnout. Now, the weird bit. Ancient Greeks believed gods dreamed of mortals' lives for entertainment, like cosmic reality TV. So while Athena snoozed, some poor Athenian baker was probably dreaming of perfecting sourdough, unaware he'd become a deity's late-night binge watch. You hear a distant thud. Hephaestus dropping an anvil? Nope. That's Ares, Athena's least favorite cousin, accidentally kicking her door. "Rise and shine, Brainy," he booms, way too cheerful. Athena jolts upright, owl feathers flying. "I was meditating on tactical formations," she snaps, straightening her aegis. Ares just smirks. "Meditating, right. Sounded like you were sawing celestial lumber." You hear a distant chime. And here's the academic tiff. Some scholars argue Athena's oversleeping was political, avoiding Zeus's pre-dawn meetings deliberately. Others insist her obsession with perfect solutions kept her up too late. Me? I think even goddesses just hate mornings. Noctua hoots softly. Athena sighs, rubbing her temples. "This is becoming a pattern," she mutters to the owl. "Mortals assumed gods operated like clockwork. They were wrong. What Athena needed wasn't wisdom or war strategy. It was an alarm clock. Too bad they wouldn't be invented until another, 2,000 years. Or would they?
That pebble on clay sound? Forget it for now. You're still that fly on the wall, wings buzzing faintly with second-hand panic. Athena's late by 3 minutes, and on Mount Olympus, divine punctuality is less a courtesy, more a survival skill when Zeus is involved. You watch Athena scramble. Wisdom goddess or not, she's hopping on one foot, trying to strap on a greave, leg armor, surprisingly fiddly, while simultaneously attempting to tame her sleep-tousled braids with a comb carved from a griffin's talon. Noctua flutters anxiously around her head, dropping small bronze gears she'd been hoarding. Don't ask why, owls are weird. Out in the main hall, the chaos you glimpsed earlier has escalated into full-blown, holy moly pandemonium. This is the Olympian morning rush hour. Picture the busiest Athenian market square, multiply the noise by 10, add floating nectar goblets, and the occasional miniature lightning bolt zapping past. Your mainstream insight: each Olympian had very specific morning duties. Apollo didn't just drive the sun chariot, he had to calibrate its light spectrum precisely to avoid scorching mortal crops or causing existential dread. Right now, he's frantically polishing the chariot's left wheel nub with his chiton sleeve, muttering about suboptimal luminosity gradients. Suddenly, a silver arrow thwacks into the marble pillar inches from your fly eyes. "Oops, sorry, wall friend," Artemis calls out, already knocking another arrow. She's supposed to be guiding the moon safely below the horizon, but got distracted sighting in on a particularly plump celestial boar drifting by. "Just, morning target practice," she chirps, utterly unrepentant. The moon wobbles dangerously low over Crete. Ah, the source of the tension. Zeus, not late, never late. He's already seated on his throne in the Hall of Hearings. Not a typo, they heard everything. Massive brow furrowed like storm clouds over Thessaly. His fingers tap in impatient rhythm on the armrest, each tap producing a tiny, localized thunderclap that makes the hanging tapestries jump. Where is Athena? Now the wonderfully bizarre detail. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, is quietly tending the central Olympian fire, but here's the kicker. She's meticulously counting the ashes falling from last night's burnt offerings. Why? Ancient sources hint ashes counted before noon predicted the success of mortal petitions that day. Oddly specific morning ritual. Ares, smelling opportunity like blood on sand, saunters over to Zeus. "Bit rude, isn't it?" he murmurs, oiling his knuckles with divine smugness. "Keeping the king of gods waiting. Almost mortal behavior." Zeus's eyes narrow. The air crackles, not a good sign. Just then Hermes zooms in, skidding to a halt on winged heels, nearly upending a tray of ambrosia-laced figs held by a nervous nymph. "Message from the Dryads of Arcadia. Urgent tree root dispute. Requires a strategic arbitration, preferably by someone wise and currently available?" He shoots a hopeful look at Zeus, clearly trying to cover for Athena. Zeus just growls, a sound like distant avalanches. "Strategic arbitration begins on time," he rumbles. Demeter chooses this moment to bustle in, smelling faintly of damp earth and breakfast grain. "Has anyone seen my pruning shears? The Sicilian wheat is getting ideas about growing faster than the Egyptian barley again." She trails off, noticing the frosty atmosphere. "Oh, right, Thessaly borders. Carry on." She pats Zeus awkwardly on the shoulder like he's a slightly grumpy prize bull. And the scholarly squabble? Was Athena's lateness truly accidental or a subtle power play? Some texts suggest she resented Zeus micromanaging border disputes, seeing them as beneath her strategic genius. Others point to clay tablets listing her known all-nighters. Me? Watching her frantically try to attach her helmet plume backward? Yeah, that's pure, unplanned, oversleeping panic. Finally, the gilded doors creak open. Athena strides in, or attempts to. She trips slightly on the hem of her hastily donned peplos. Her expression is the picture of serene, unflappable, divine wisdom. Mostly, if you ignore the faint owl feather stuck to her cheek and the wild glint in her eyes. "Father," she declares, voice impressively steady, despite her flushed cheeks. "My profound apologies. I was calibrating a new tactical model for the Thessalian frontier. Time slipped away." Zeus stares. Ares smirks. Apollo winces. Hermes gives her a tiny, encouraging thumbs up from behind a pillar. Silence hangs, thick and electric. Then Zeus sighs, a gust of wind rattling the windows. "Sit, daughter. We begin. 3 minutes late is, inefficient." He pauses, eyeing the stray feather. "And, Athena, comb your thoughts and your hair." Athena sinks on her throne, radiating wounded dignity. But as Zeus launches into the border minutiae, and the river god Anchelius claims the bend near Phara shifts 3 cubits every spring solstice, you see her hand sneak down onto the cool marble floor, searching for something small, smooth, and pebble-shaped, the germ of an idea born of pure, flustered necessity starts to itch.
That cool marble pebble under Athena's searching fingers? Forget it too, for now, because you're not in the Hall of Hearings anymore. The air here is thick with the scent of hot metal, cedar oil, and singed owl feather. Welcome to Athena's private workshop. Think less mad scientist, more divine tinkerer with a serious sleep deficit and a growing grudge against dawn. You're perched on a sturdy oak shelf this time, surrounded by half-finished contraptions, a self-adjusting loom shuttle, a prototype voting urn that supposedly prevented ballot stuffing. Hera vetoed it. And something involving hydraulics and startled-looking bronze doves. Athena paces, the hem of her peplot swirling around her ankles. Noctua perches solemnly on a bronze anvil, observing like a tiny feathered foreman. "Right," Athena mutters, stopping abruptly. She picks up the offending pebble that tripped her earlier. It's smooth, cool, unremarkable. This is the problem. She holds it up to Noctua. Time. Mortals measure it with sundials, water clocks, crude, imprecise things. We gods, we just feel it, or we're supposed to. She tosses the pebble lightly. It lands with a soft clack on a large, shallow bronze dish. Mainstream knowledge incoming. The Greeks did have early alarm clocks, sort of. Clepsydrai, water clocks, could be adapted. Water dripped from one vessel to another. When the lower vessel filled, it might tip over, releasing pebbles onto a metal plate. Clatter. Instant, rudimentary alarm. But they were notoriously unreliable and required constant resetting. Gods, Athena knew, deserved better. "What we need," Athena declares, eyes gleaming with the dangerous light of problem-solving obsession, "is something external, something that imposes structure, a signal, not reliant on celestial bodies or my father's mood swings." Noctua hoots softly, as if in agreement, or hunger. Now the delightfully obscure bit. Athena's workshop wasn't just for war machines. Scroll fragments mention she experimented with sonic amplification using carefully positioned bronze shields and parabolic dishes. Not for war cries, for broadcasting poetry readings across valleys. Tonight, sound is back on the menu. She grabs a small, intricate bronze mechanism, a rejected component from Hermes' latest failed attempt at a self-lacing sandal. "Potential energy," she murmurs, winding a tiny key on its side. It whirs faintly. Stored and released. She attaches a thin bronze wire to its central spindle. Her other hand holds a tiny mallet poised over the bronze dish. Trial uno begins. Athena carefully places the wound mechanism on the shelf near your fly self. She attaches the wire to nothing yet, just dangling. She sets the mallet precariously on the edge of the dish. "Theory," she whispers, mostly to herself. The mechanism unwinds, pulls the wire, jerks the mallet, bang! "Wakey, wakey!" She beams. It's the first genuinely relaxed expression you've seen on her all day. She steps back, admiring her setup.
Noctua tilts its head, dubious. Tick, tick, tick. The mechanism whirs, the wire tightens, the mallet trembles, and slips. It falls sideways off the dish with a pathetic plink, landing harmlessly on a pile of soft fleece scraps. The mechanism whirs on uselessly, the wire dangling. Athena stares, blinks. Trial dose. Inspiration strikes. She grabs a long, thin reed. Resonance, she announces. She affixes the reed vertically to the dish's rim. The mallet, now secured with divine-grade sticky resin, patent pending probably, is positioned to strike the reed. The clang will be amplified, truly awe-inspiring. She rewinds the mechanism, attaches the wire to the mallet, sets it, steps back, confidence restored. Tick, tick, tick. Whir. Wire pulls, mallet jerks forward, thwack. It hits the reed dead center. The reed vibrates and produces a sound like a sickly gnat buzzing weakly into a jar. Zzz, zzz, zzz. It's less awe-inspiring alarm, more disgruntled cicada. Athena's shoulders slump. Noctua shuffles its feet. You, the fly, consider buzzing sympathetically, but decide against it. Here's where scholars get snippy. Some argue Athena's early experiments prove she was secretly trying to create musical automaton, not alarms, inspired by Orpheus. Others point out her documented frustration with oversleeping. The real debate is, did she ever actually use that divine sticky resin elsewhere? Evidence is patchy. Suddenly, a shadow darkens the workshop doorway. Not Zeus. Worse. Ares leans against the frame, arms crossed, a smirk plastered across his annoyingly symmetrical face. He'd clearly followed her. "Brainy," he drawls, eyeing the pathetic reed still quivering with a faint zzz, zzz. Still calibrating tactical models, or just playing with toys? He pokes the failed mechanism with a finger. Cute. Sounds like a dying grasshopper. Perfect for waking the dead, or putting them to sleep. Hard to tell. Athena's face is stone, but you see the tips of her ears flush pink. Innovation requires iteration, Ares, she says, her voice dangerously level. Something your approach to, well, everything seems to bypass entirely. Ares laughs, a short, sharp bark. Innovation. Looks like frustration to me. Maybe you just need someone to bang a gong outside your door. He mimes swinging a massive hammer. Real loud. Guaranteed to wake the whole mountain. I volunteer. His grin is pure, unadulterated schadenfreude. Athena takes a slow, deep breath. You can practically see the calculations flashing behind her eyes. Distance to nearest heavy object, a bronze shield, trajectory, potential diplomatic fallout. Wisdom prevails. Barely. Your enthusiasm is noted, cousin, she says, turning her back deliberately to him, picking up the mallet. Her knuckles are white. But I prefer solutions that don't involve concussions before breakfast. Now, if you'll excuse me, some of us have actual work to do. Ares chuckles, shaking his head. Suit yourself, owl lady. Just remember, he adds, heading for the door, if you oversleep tomorrow's war council, I'm bringing the gong. He disappears, his grating laughter echoing down the corridor. Silence descends, thick and hot. Athena stands perfectly still, staring at the pathetic reed and the useless mallet. Noctua hoots softly, a question. Then, slowly, Athena's gaze shifts, not to the reed, not to the mallet, but to the large, shallow bronze dish itself, the one the pebble had landed in, the one that made that simple, resonant clack. A slow, thoughtful smile spreads across her face. Not the serene wisdom smile. This is different, sharper, more Hephaestus-like. external signal, she murmurs, picking up a fistful of small, smooth pebbles from a nearby pouch. She holds them over the dish. Potential energy, released, impact. She lets one pebble drop. Clack. Clear, sharp, unmistakable. Noctua fluffs her feathers, intrigued. Athena looks at the owl, then at the shelf piled high with discarded bronze components. Her eyes narrow, not in frustration, but in fierce, focused calculation. The germ of an idea, fertilized by Ares's annoying visit, is sprouting thorns and possibly gears. "Forget the mallet," she whispers, a spark of divine inspiration finally cutting through the fog of sleeplessness. Her hand hovers over the dish, ready to release a cascade of pebbles. The solution feels tantalizingly close. Simple. Almost boringly obvious.
Gravity is the quiet, dependable worker Athena never thought to employ. Forget complex gears, temperamental reeds, or divine sticky resin. The solution, it seems, is embarrassingly simple. Lift stuff up, let stuff fall, preferably onto something noisy. You watch, perched on a dangling bronze scale weight, as Athena becomes a whirlwind of focused activity. Gone is the flustered goddess. Here stands the practical engineer. She commandeers a large, sturdy amphora, the kind usually holding wine or olive oil, and tips its contents, dried lentils, surprisingly, onto a spare fleece. The amphora gets positioned upside down on the cool stone floor. Next, she selects a broad, shallow bronze platter, the ceremonial kind used for presenting laurel wreaths, and suspends it horizontally just above the amphora's base using thin, strong threads of spider silk, courtesy of Arachne's less resentful descendants, presumably. The vessel, Athena mutters, pointing to the inverted amphora, holds the agent of awakening. She gestures to a growing pile of smooth, river-polished pebbles beside her. The platter, the receiver, the impact point. Noctua howts softly, hopping onto the amphora's curved side for a better view. Mainstream context. While the Greeks get credit for complex clepsydra, the basic principle of a falling weight alarm is ancient and universal. But Athena wasn't copying mortals. She was converging on the same elegant, lazy physics. Divine ego wouldn't admit it, though. Now the wonderfully odd detail. The platter isn't plain bronze. Athena's taking time to engrave tiny, intricate owl motifs around its rim using a diamond-tipped stylus. Why? Later scholars argue it was for acoustic resonance modulation. Scroll fragments suggest she just thought it looked nicer. You suspect it was stress relief carving. The mechanism for lifting the pebbles proves trickier. Athena rejects a winch, too noisy before the alarm, dismisses a counterweight system, overcomplicates the elegance, and glares at a coiled spring salvaged from Apollo's lyre, unpredictable elasticity. Finally, she settles on pure, simple divinity. A faint, shimmering aura surrounds her hand as she scoops up a dozen pebbles. With focused intent, she levitates them gently inside the inverted amphora, letting them settle into a neat pile resting against the now horizontal base, which is actually the top of the upside-down jar. "Potential energy," she whispers, satisfied. "Contained, waiting." She attaches a thin golden thread to the lip of the amphora. The other end winds around a small bronze spindle set into the workshop wall. This spindle is connected to nothing yet, just a placeholder for timing. Here comes the scholarly squabble. Did early alarms use celestial alignment, water pressure, or burning ropes for timing? Evidence is fragmented. Athena's solution? She hasn't quite figured that part out yet. For now, the golden thread is just symbolic potential.
She plans to connect it later to a sundial mechanism or maybe a slow-burning incense stick. Perfectionism delayed the prototype. Athena steps back, admiring her creation. The inverted amphora looks like a large clay bell. The suspended platter gleams below it, etched owls catching the flickering lamplight. The pile of pebbles rests invisibly inside, held aloft by her will. It's simple, it's elegant, it's almost boring. Perfect. Trial 1, she announces, voice thick with anticipation. Awakening simulation. She gives the golden thread a gentle tug. Nothing happens. The thread is slack. She tugs harder. The spindle turns slightly, but the thread just slips. The pebbles remain stubbornly levitated inside the amphora. Ah, Athena mutters. Kinetic transfer oversight. She hadn't connected the thread to disrupt the levitation field holding the pebbles. Ares' voice seemed to echo in the workshop. Looks like frustration to me. Gritting her teeth, Athena modifies the design. She weaves the golden thread not just around the amphora's neck, but in through the divine energy field itself, anchoring it metaphysically to the pile of pebbles. It's delicate work, like threading a needle with moonlight. Trial 2, she declares, rewinding the spindle. She takes a deep breath. This time, the tug needs to be firm, decisive, a wake-up call yank. She grips the thread. Yank! The golden thread pulls taut. The metaphysical anchor hooks the levitation field. The field flickers and collapses. The pile of pebbles inside the inverted amphora instantly succumbs to gravity. They plummet the short distance onto the suspended bronze platter. Clack, 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 clack. The sound is immediate, sharp, and loud, like a sudden hailstorm on a bronze roof. It echoes off the stone walls, startlingly crisp in the quiet workshop. Noctua lets out a surprised "Hoo!" and flutters off the amphora. You, the fly, buzz backwards in alarm. Athena freezes, eyes wide, not with shock, but with pure, unadulterated triumph. The serene goddess is gone. This is pure inventor's glee. Yes! She hisses, pumping a fist. That is a signal! The pebbles lie scattered on the engraved platter. The amphora stands empty and inverted. The golden thread hangs loose. It worked. It was loud. It was alarmingly effective. But was it too much? Athena's triumphant grin slowly fades as she considers the sheer volume. Waking herself was the goal, not rousing the entire Olympian guard. She needed control, modulation, perhaps fewer pebbles, a different material. As if reading her thoughts, Noctua, who had landed on a shelf cluttered with oddities, shuffles sideways. Its talon nudges a small, discarded object, a hollow, polished river reed about the length of your fly body. It rolls gently off the shelf. Time seems to slow. The reed tumbles end to end. Athena is staring thoughtfully at the pebble-scattered platter. Noctua watches the falling reed with detached owl interest. You watch Noctua. The reed falls, past the suspended bronze platter, past the rim of the inverted amphora, and lands perfectly upright inside the narrow neck of the clay vessel. Whip! A soft, almost insignificant sound. Athena doesn't even notice it. She's already reaching for a smaller handful of pebbles, muttering about volume calibration. But Noctua's head swivels. It stares intently at the reed sticking out of the amphora's neck like a tiny organic antenna. The owl's large round eyes blink slowly. Then, with deliberate, almost mischievous slowness, Noctua shuffles closer to the shelf's edge, directly above the reed. It lifts one feathered foot and deliberately knocks one small dried lentil, left over from the amphora's original contents off the shelf. The lentil drops, airs perfectly down the amphora's neck and onto the hollow reed inside. Puck! A small, dry, resonant tunk echoes from within the clay vessel. It's not loud like the pebbles. It's focused, percussive, a single, unobtrusive but utterly distinct note. Athena's head snaps up. What was that? Noctua instantly adopts an expression of profound owl innocence, gazing blankly at a distant cobweb. Athena walks over to the amphora, peering down its neck. She sees the reed, sees the lentil resting on it. Her brow furrows. She picks up another lentil, drops it down the neck. Pock! The sound is clearer this time, contained by the amphora, amplified slightly by its shape, a single, unobtrusive, but utterly distinct note. Athena's slow, dawning realization spreads across her face. She looks from the lentil to the reed, to the amphora, to the bronze platter, and finally to Noctua, who refuses to meet her gaze. The germ of the pebble alarm was good, loud, effective. But this one single resonant puck had potential, refined potential, and it came courtesy of a bored owl and a falling lentil.
That single perfect puck, it's a revelation. Loud pebbles are for startling armies, not waking goddesses, but a precise, resonant pulse of sound, contained and amplified by humble clay. That has elegance. That has potential. You watch, perched on the rim of the fateful amphora, as Athena becomes a meticulous bean counter. Literally. Lentils spill across her work table as she sorts them by size, weight, and, inexplicably, shade of beige. Noctua supervises from atop a dusty scroll tube, occasionally nudging a particularly plump lentil with its beak. Consistency, Athena murmurs, lining up her chosen specimens. The agent must be uniform, predictable. She drops one carefully selected lentil down the amphora's neck. Pock! A satisfyingly clear, mid-range thunk. Volume control, she declares, scribbling notes on a wax tablet. Achieved through selection. The pile of rejected lentils grew, too light, too heavy, suspiciously dimpled. Divine agriculture had its quirks. Mainstream context incoming. While lentils were a Greek dietary staple, their use as acoustic actuators was unprecedented. But Athena, ever practical, saw potential in the mundane. Forget celestial bronze, breakfast pulses were the future of wakefulness. Now, the wonderfully niche detail. The hollow reed wasn't just any reed. Athena sourced it from the banks of the river Lethe, famed for its forgetfulness-inducing waters. Did she believe this imbued the reed with anti-sleep properties? Or was it simply the straightest reed available? Scholars still bicker. You note she carefully avoids touching the reed to her own skin. The amphora itself gets upgraded. Athena finds a smaller, slender-necked oil jar, easier to handle. She positions it carefully on a stone plinth, ensuring the reed stands perfectly vertical. The suspended bronze platter? Gone. Redundant. The sound now came from within the jar itself, amplified by its shape. Simple. Contained. Almost intimate. Trial 3, Athena announces, dropping the chosen lentil. Pock. Perfect. Clear. Not earth-shattering, but impossible to ignore if you were dozing nearby. Triumph flickers in her gray eyes. Then silence. The sound fades. The lentil lies inert at the bottom of the jar. The reed stands ready. And Athena stares. Realization dawning. The sound was solved. But the timing. How to make the lentil drop precisely when needed.
Her elegant solution currently required a goddess standing by, lentil in hand, ready to perform a divine bean drop at dawn. Defeated the purpose entirely. She paces again, frustration creeping back. Noctua houts softly. A question. The trigger, Noctua, Athena sighs. The automation. How to make the jar release the lentil at the exact moment. She gestures helplessly at the serene, silent jar. Just then, the workshop door creaks open, not with Ares' aggressive kick, but with a hesitant, metallic groan. A shadow, broad and hunched, fills the doorway, accompanied by the rhythmic clank, thump of heavy footsteps and the faint smell of sulfur and hot metal. Hephaestus, the smith god, stands framed in the lamplight, wiping soot from his brow with a massive, calloused hand. He leans on an ornate walking staff that clicks softly with hidden gears. Heard commotion? Hephaestus rumbles, his voice like stones grinding together. His keen, dark eyes sweep the workshop, bypassing the divine clutter, landing instantly on the modified oil jar with its protruding reed. He limps closer, the clank thump echoing. New hydrometer? Olive oil viscosity tester? Athena blinks. An actual alarm clock, actually, to wake me. Hephaestus pauses, blinks slowly, processes this. His gaze flicks from the jar to the pile of meticulously sorted lentils. Ah! He shuffles closer, peering intently. Sound source internalized. Good. Amplification via vessel resonance. Efficient. He taps the clay jar with a soot-blackened fingernail. It gives a faint donk. But release mechanism? He raises a bushy eyebrow at Athena. Manual? A temporary setback. I'm exploring options involving calibrated sand flow, or perhaps a slow-burning fuse. Hephaestus grunts. It sounds like disapproval. He sets down his clicking staff and reaches into the heavy leather apron slung across his powerful torso. He pulls out a small, incredibly complex bronze mechanism. Gears within gears, tiny levers, a coiled spring thinner than a spider's leg. It whirs faintly, emitting a high-pitched tick, tick, tick. Over complication? Athena murmurs, eyeing the tiny monstrosity with polite horror. Precision, Hephaestus counters, holding it up. It glints in the lamplight. Timed ignition device for ceremonial temple braziers. Triggers spark exactly at sunrise. He points a thick finger at a minuscule pointer on a dial marked with celestial symbols. Adjustable. Reliable. Wind it. Lasts a week. He offers it to Athena. Integrate this. Release pin here. He jabs a finger at a tiny lever on his device. Connects to lentil hopper. He gestures vaguely towards the jar's neck. Drops one bean exactly on schedule. No divine intervention needed. Athena stares at the intricate clockwork mechanism. It's undeniably brilliant, also undeniably the opposite of her elegant bean and jar simplicity. It hissed, ticked, and looked like it might explode if mishandled. Here's the scholarly spat. Was Hephaestus genuinely helping, or subtly sabotaging her elegant concept with over-engineered chaos? Some point to their collaborative history, the Aegis shield. Others cite Hephaestus's known resentment of elegant, non-metallic solutions. It's remarkable, Hephaestus, Athena says carefully, taking the ticking device in her palm. It vibrates faintly. It's truly, but is such complexity necessary for a single lentil? Hephaestus shrugs, a movement like shifting tectonic plates. Complexity ensures reliability. Simplicity fails.
He gestures at his own braced leg, a masterpiece of divine smithing supporting a flaw. Gears don't oversleep. He turns, clanking towards the door. Try it or don't. He pauses at the threshold. Heard Ares volunteered a gong. A rare, almost imperceptible smirk touches his lips. Simplicity. He clanks out, leaving behind the faint scent of ozone and the insistent tick, tick, tick of his device. Silence descends, filled only by the tiny, persistent ticking. Athena looks from the intricate bronze mechanism in her hand to the serene, unadorned clay jar. One promised precision through whirring years, the other offered a simple puck through a hollow reed and gravity. Noctua hoots softly, hopping down onto the work table. It nudges a single perfect lentil towards the jar's neck with its beak. Tick, tick, tick. Athena sighs, placing Hephaestus's intricate device carefully aside, not discarded, but just shelved. She picks up the chosen lentil. Simplicity might fail, Hephaestus warned, but complexity felt like inviting a miniature ticking Ares into her bedchamber. She looks towards the high window of her workshop. The first faint streaks of pre-dawn gray are lightening the sky. Time was running out. She needed a solution now. Something reliable. Something boring. Her gaze falls back on the clay jar, then drifts to a sunbeam slowly creeping across the workshop floor from the high window, marking time, relentlessly, predictably. A slow, thoughtful smile curves Athena's lips. Forget burning fuses. Forget temperamental gears. What if the sun itself could drop the bean?
That creeping sunbeam? It's Athena's new co-conspirator. Forget Hephaestus's whirring contraption. The sun is reliable, free, and blissfully silent until it does its job. You watch, perched on the cool stone of the windowsill, as Athena engineers pure, elegant laziness. The slender oil jar, reed up right inside its neck, sits precisely where the first direct rays of dawn will strike. But how to translate light into bean drop? Athena's solution is deceptively simple. She stretches a single fine thread of pure white beeswax across the path of the incoming sunbeam, anchoring one end to the window frame and the other to a tiny, delicately balanced wooden lever poised directly above the jar's neck. On the lever's end rests a single perfect lentil. Phase change, she murmurs, admiring the setup. Solid wax intercepts light, absorbs heat, melts. She minds the thread snapping. Lever releases, gravity acts. Pock. She beams. It's physics poetry, divine thermodynamics in action. Mainstream tidbit. The Greeks understood solar principles well. Sundials, burning mirrors at Syracuse. But harnessing solar energy for domestic automation? That was pure Athena brand ingenuity, or desperation-fueled pragmatism. Now the wonderfully obscure touch. The beeswax thread wasn't ordinary. Athena sourced it from the sacred hives of Mount Hymettus, famed for honey that supposedly induced prophetic dreams. Did she hope prophetic wax might grant her pleasant wake-ups? Or just appreciate its high melting point? Scrolls are mute on the motive. Dawn approaches. The sky pales from charcoal to lavender. Athena sits cross-legged on the floor a few feet away, owl in lap, eyes fixed on the wax thread and the lentil teetering on its lever. The anticipation is thick enough to slice. Noctua seems to hold its breath. You, the fly, resist the urge to buzz nervously. The first sliver of golden sun breaches the horizon. A brilliant, narrow beam lances through the high workshop window like a divine finger. It crawls slowly, deliberately, across the dusty floor. inches toward the taut white wax thread, touches it. Nothing happens immediately. The wax glistens. Athena leans forward. Slowly, almost languidly, the thread begins to soften. A tiny bead of molten wax forms where the light strikes it. The bead swells, elongates. Snap. The thread parts silently. The counterbalanced wooden lever, suddenly freed, jerks upward with a minuscule twang. The perfect lentil rolls gently off the lever's end, tumbles through the air, and drops straight down the narrow neck of the oil jar. Down, down, past the waiting reed, pock. The sound is crisp, resonant, contained, a single woody note echoing softly within the clay chamber. Perfect, exactly as before, but this time automatic, triggered by the dawn itself. Athena lets out a breath she didn't know she was holding. A slow, triumphant smile spreads across her face, brighter than the dawn light now filling the workshop. She scoops up Noctua, spinning the slightly dizzy owl in a gentle circle. It works, truly works. No gears, no shouting, just sun and wax and gravity. Noctua hoots, perhaps in agreement, perhaps protesting the dizziness. Trial after trial follows as the sun climbs. Athena adjusts the thread's thickness, the lever's sensitivity, the lentil's starting position. Each dawn simulation, using a focused lamp flame for speed, produces that satisfying, reliable pock. It's consistent, it's gentle-ish, it's hers. The scholarly spat ignites here. Did this constitute the first alarm clock? Hardly. Water clocks with pebble droppers existed. But was it the first solar-powered, single-impact, lentil-based alarm? Probably. The real debate is whether it was practical. Melting points vary with weather, seasons, cloud cover, which is precisely the storm cloud looming on Athena's horizon, literally. 2 days later, optimism reigns. Athena sets her jar alarm meticulously before collapsing onto her surprisingly comfortable, for marble, sleeping couch. Noctua perches on the bedpost. For the first time in weeks, Athena drifts off feeling in control. Victory over dawn is nigh. You, the ever-present fly, settle onto a cool spot on the wall, ready to witness history or divine humiliation. Hard to tell. Dawn approaches. Outside, the sky isn't the clear lavender of trial runs. It's a thick, woolly gray. Clouds blanket Olympus. Heavy, damp clouds. Silent. The crucial sunbeam doesn't come. Gray, diffuse light seeps into the workshop. It touches the sacred Hymettus wax thread. The wax softens, slowly. Beads form, slowly. But it doesn't get hot enough. Not enough focused energy. The thread sags, stretches, droops pathetically, but doesn't snap. The lever remains poised. The lentil remains balanced. Silence. Athena sleeps on, blissfully unaware. A faint, contented snore escapes her. Noctua's head is tucked under a wing. Time passes. The gray light brightens marginally, uselessly. The wax thread is now a sticky, elongated mess, clinging stubbornly. No snap, no lever jerk, no lentil drop. Pock remains a tantalizing, unachieved potential. The appointed hour for Athena's meeting with Zeus about Nemean lion population control, a tedious but necessary duty, arrives and passes. Down in the hall of hearings, Zeus's fingers began their ominous thunder tapping. Ares, predictably, is already sharpening a spear point and grinning. Up in the workshop, Athena sleeps. The jar stands silent. The lentil waits. The failed wax demand glistens, a monument to meteorological betrayal. It's Noctua who senses the problem first. The owl's head emerges from under its wing. It blinks at the gray window, then at the drooping wax, then at the still sleeping Athena. A soft, concerned "whoo" escapes it. Athena stirs, mumbling something about optimal grain distribution. She smacks her lips, rolls over, and continues sleeping. Noctua looks from the goddess to the silent jar. Its large, round eyes fix on the pathetic, stretched wax. Then slowly, deliberately, the owl shuffles along the bedpost, closer to the work table where Hephaestus's intricate bronze timing device sits, still faintly ticking from its forgotten corner. Noctua's head tilts. The rhythmic tick, tick, tick seems to hold its attention. Its gaze flicks back to the silent, lentil-less jar, back to the ticking device. A low, thoughtful rumble vibrates in the owl's chest. Not a hoot, more like an idea forming. Athena snores softly, dreaming perhaps of perfectly punctual sunrises, oblivious. Her elegant solar-powered solution lay in ruins, foiled by something as mundane as a cloudy morning. The simplicity Hephaestus had mocked had indeed failed. But across the room, a tiny, complex heart of bronze continued to beat. Tick, tick, tick. Relentless, predictable, unaffected by clouds. Noctua blinked, slowly.
That relentless ticking? It's the sound of divine surrender. You watch, antenna twitching, as Athena blearily opens one eye, then the other. Gray light, silence where a pock should be. And the smug metallic tick-tick-tick of Hephaestus's rejected device, now perched accusingly on her bedside table, courtesy of a certain large-eyed accomplice. Noctua sits primly beside it, radiating owl innocence. Noctua, Athena croaks, pushing herself up on one elbow, hair impressively tangled. Did you move that? The owl stares blankly at a moth fluttering near the ceiling. The tick-tick-tick mocks the quiet room. A glance at the window confirms the disaster. Thick, woolly clouds. Her beautiful solar trigger was a soggy failure. Downstairs, a faint, ominous rumble shakes the floorboards. Zeus, getting impatient. Again. Athena groans, burying her face in her hands. 3 minutes late again, she mutters into her palms. The humiliation burns hotter than Hades' forge. Ares' gong threat felt terrifyingly imminent. Then her gaze lands on the ticking bronze contraption. It gleams dully in the gray light, complex, inelegant, and utterly, infuriatingly reliable. Hephaestus's words echo, gears, don't oversleep. Mainstream context. Water clocks, clepsydra, were the ancient world's closest thing to reliable timekeepers, used in courts and assemblies. But they were bulky, required constant refilling, and weren't easily adapted for alarms. Hephaestus's compact, spring-wound device was revolutionary, bordering on heresy for its independence from celestial or elemental forces. With a sigh that sounded like the last gasp of her aesthetic principles, Athena grabs the device. It's cool, heavier than it looks, humming with contained energy. Noctua hoots softly, almost encouragingly. Fine, Athena grumbles, stomping towards her workshop, device in hand, sleep-forgotten lentil alarm jar abandoned. Complexity wins, for now. The workshop feels different. Gray light washes the color from her elegant prototypes. The failed wax thread droops like a sad noodle. Athena clears a space, setting Hephaestus's device down with perhaps more force than necessary. Clunk. Now, the wonderfully niche problem. How to connect this whirring, ticking thing to a lentil? Hephaestus's suggestion, a lentil hopper, was laughably vague. Athena needed mechanics, actual physical cause and effect. She rummages through discarded bronze bits, failed sandal clasps, lyre tuning pins, a miniature catapult arm. Her fingers close on a small, shallow bronze dish, the one from her original pebble alarm. Too loud, but it had a lip, a potential landing zone. Inspiration strikes, pragmatic and ugly. She flips the dish upside down.
Using divine strength sticky resin, the questionable kind, she cements the dish's rim directly over the neck of her oil jar, sealing it shut. A small hole is bored dead center in the dish's base. Next, she finds a thin, stiff bronze rod. One end is filed to a point. This gets painstakingly attached to the tiny release lever on Hephaestus's device. The other end hovers precisely over the hole in the inverted bronze dish. "The hopper," Athena mutters, pouring a small pile of her meticulously sorted lentils onto the sealed dish. They form a little beige mound over the hole. Release lever flicks, rod pushes, one lentil gets nudged. Down the hole, down the neck, pock. It's inelegant. It looks like a metal mushroom growing out of a clay jar, topped with breakfast pulses. Noctu appears at it, head tilted 180 degrees. Here's the scholarly squabble. Was this the first integration of precision clockwork with an acoustic alarm? Almost certainly. But historians fiercely debate whether it was an innovation or a grotesque kludge. Proponents of divine elegance theory cite it as Athena's darkest hour. Athena winds the device's tiny key. The ticking intensifies. Tick, 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 tick. She sets the celestial dial pointer to dawn plus 0 minutes. Her finger hovers over the release lever simulation pin. Deep breath. Trial 4. Mechanical dawn. She flicks the pin. Snap, click. The tiny lever on the clockwork device jerks. The attached bronze rod stabs forward with surprising speed and force. Pock! It jabs directly into the pile of lentils on the bronze dish. Not a gentle nudge, a spear thrust. Lentils explode. They fly in a beige arc across the workshop. Pitter, patter, patter like miniature hail. Not a single one finds the hole. The rod retracts. The jar remains silent. Athena stares at the carnage. Lentils decorate shelves, tools, and Noctua's left foot. The owl shakes its talon, dislodging one. "Volume control," Athena mutters darkly, picking a lentil out of her hair. Achieved through scatter. Trial 5 involves reducing the rod's force. She replaces it with a thin reed stalk, hoping for a gentler push. She winds, flicks. Whip. The reed bends limply against the lentil pile. A single bean wobbles and rolls away from the hole. Silence. Trial 6, Athena crafts a tiny spoon-shaped scoop from bronze sheet, attaching it to the rod. She winds, flicks. Click, scrape. The scoop neatly collects 3 lentils and dumps them next to the hole. A low growl rumbles in Athena's throat, startlingly Ares-like. Noctua shuffles backwards on its perch. Time is slipping away. Another rumble shakes the workshop from below, Zeus's patience evaporating. Suddenly, Noctua hops down. It waddles to the base of the jar contraption. It looks up at the hole in the bronze dish. Then, with surprising delicacy, it picks up a single rejected lentil from the floor in its beak. It hops onto a small stool, then onto the work table, eye level with the dish. It stretches its neck and drops the lentil. The lentil falls, airs perfectly, down the hole, down the neck, pock. Clear, perfect, on demand. Athena freezes, stares at the jar, stares at Noctua, stares at the complex clockwork device, its rod poised uselessly. The owl looks back at her, blanks. A slow, dawning, slightly hysterical laugh bubbles up from Athena. "Oh," she breathes, the absurdity crashing over her. "Oh, simplicity." The machine wasn't the solution. The machine was the timer. The release? That could be breathtakingly, stupidly simple. Gravity and a hole. She lunges for the work table, scattering lentils. She grabs the bronze dish. Off comes the spoon rod. Off comes the sticky resin. She flips the dish right side up. She bores a tiny hole, just large enough for one lentil, dead center in its bottom. She balances the dish directly over the jar's neck, supported by 3 slender bronze legs she bends into shape with her bare hands. The lentils go into the dish now, covering the hole. Hephaestus's device gets repositioned. Its release lever is now connected by a thin thread to a tiny, lightweight flap, a scrap of thin bronze sheet positioned directly underneath the hole in the dish. Normally, the flat blocks the hole. She winds the device, sets the time, flicks the simulation pin. Snap. The thread pulls taut. The tiny flap beneath the dish's hold jerks sideways for just a fraction of a second. A single lentil, sitting directly over the hole, drops straight through. Down the neck, onto the reed. Pock. The sound is perfect, crisp, contained. And this time, no lentils exploded. Athena stares. Noctua hoots softly. The machine ticked. The flap flicked. Gravity dropped the bean. The jar went pock. It was inelegant. It was hybrid. It was undeniably functional. A wild, sleep-deprived grin splits Athena's face. She scoops up Noctua, planting a smacking kiss between the owl's feathery ears. Noctua endures the affection with stoic owl dignity. Downstairs, another louder thunder rumble shakes the workshop dust from the rafters. Zeus was at decon -3. Athena doesn't panic. She looks at her ludicrous functional contraption, the ticking bronze heart, the lentil-laden dish, the waiting jar. Then she looks at the window. The clouds were thinning. A sliver of pale gold light broke through. A slow, cunning smile spreads across her face. Not serene wisdom, not inventor's glee. This was pure, unadulterated backup planning. Noctua, she whispers, eyes gleaming. Fetch me more sacred beeswax. Hybrid was good, but redundancy was divine.
That sacred beeswax? It's back, stretched thin as a god's patience. But this time, it's plan B, backup, redundancy. You watch, perched on the rim of the lentil-laden bronze dish, as Athena becomes a master of contingency. The hybrid monster alarm, Hephaestus's ticking heart grafted onto her pock jar, sits proudly on her bedside table. Beside it, gleaming under a newly positioned lamp, simulating dawn, sits the resurrected solar jar, its fresh white wax thread taut, lever poised, lentil ready. 2 paths to wakefulness, one reliant on relentless gears, the other on fickle sunlight. Athena surveys her creations, hands on hips. Covered, she declares to Noctua. The owl blinks, perched atop the ticking device, seemingly unfazed by the vibrations. Mainstream nugget. The concept of redundant systems wasn't formalized until much later, but Athena, strategist at heart, instinctively grasped it. 1 point of failure? Unacceptable, especially when the failure involved Ares and a gong. Now, the delightfully obscure touch. The lamp simulating the sun wasn't ordinary oil. Athena filled it with a blend pressed from Hyperborean sunberries, rumored to capture the essence of Apollo's chariot light. Did it work, or just smell faintly of citrus and wishful thinking? Scrolls remain coy. The night passes. Athena sleeps fitfully, twitching at imagined pocks and phantom ticks. Noctua remains vigilant, a feathered sentinel atop the ticking bronze. Outside, the sky remains stubbornly overcast, a thick blanket muffling the world. Dawn's appointed hour approaches, marked only by the insistent internal rhythm of Hephaestus's device. Tick, tick, tick. Suddenly, the ticking intensifies, shifting to a frantic tick, 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 the final countdown. Snap, click. Inside the hybrid contraption, the tiny release lever jerks. The thread pulls taut. The minuscule bronze flap under the lentil dish flicks sideways for a split second. 1 perfect lentil, sitting directly over the tiny hole, drops. Down the oil jar's neck, on to the waiting reed. Pock. The sound is sharp, resonant,
contained, exactly as designed. A triumphant note in the quiet gloom. Athena bolts upright, eyes wide, hair a magnificent storm cloud of its own. I'm awake, she gasps, clutching her chest. The pock hadn't been loud, but in the silence of sleep, it felt significant, like a tap on the divine shoulder. Noctua hoots softly, a feathery told you so. Downstairs, the faint building thunder rumble pauses. Zeus, perhaps sensing the unusual punctuality, holds his celestial fury. Athena scrambles out of bed, relief warring with the lingering shock of being startled awake by a being. She peers at the hybrid device. It ticks on serenely, its job done. The solar jar beside it sits useless, its wax thread barely softened by the weak gray light filtering in. Cloudy morning, 1. Solar alarm, 0. Hephaestus's gears, 1. But the victory feels jarring, literally. The pock had worked, but the suddenness, the mechanical snap-click preceding it, it lacked grace. It felt mortal, efficient but inelegant. Athena frowns, running a finger over the cold bronze of Hephaestus's contribution. Necessary, perhaps, but not hers. Here scholars sharpen their quills. Was Athena's discomfort with the mechanical solution aesthetic snobbery or a valid critique of introducing complex failure points? Proponents of divine minimalism hail her instinct. Tech priests of Hephaestus call it ingratitude. A brisk knock rattles the chamber door, not Ares' kick, but Hermes' rapid-fire tap. Athena, rise, and oh, you are risen. Excellent. Zeus is moderately less thunderous than expected. War Council in 10. Try not to strategize anyone into an early nap this time. His voice fades as winged footsteps whisk him away. Athena takes a steadying breath. She'd done it. She was awake, on time, without solar assistance. The hybrid horror worked. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she eyes the silent solar jar, its wax thread drooping pathetically. A pang of something like loss hits her. The elegant simplicity of sun, wax, gravity, defeated by clouds. It felt like poetry interrupted. Noctua hops down, waddling to the solar jar. It nudges the balanced lintel on its lever with its beak. The lintel wobbles precariously, but doesn't fall. The owl looks up at Athena, then deliberately nudges it again. Pock. The sound is softer this time, without the jar's amplification, but clear. Athena smiles faintly. Manual override, she murmurs. She quickly dons her peplos and aegis, fingers nimbly braiding her hair. No stray owl feathers today. As she fastens the last clasp, her gaze falls again on the two alarms, the ticking hybrid and the silent solar jar. The germ of an idea, sparked by Noctua's nudge and her own lingering dissatisfaction, begins to unfurl. What if she didn't need either? Not the complexity, not the solar vulnerability. What if the solution was simpler, smaller, something that didn't require lentils, jars, wax, or temperamental celestial clockwork? Something inherent. She picks up a single rejected lentil, too light she deemed it earlier. She rolls it between her thumb and forefinger. It was just a bean. Potential energy stored by its position, released by gravity. The impact created the sound, but the sound needed resonance. The jar provided that. The reed focused it. Could she miniaturize the resonance? Internalize it? Create something that was both the dropped weight and the resonator? Her eyes drift to a small discarded bronze bell, part of a failed decorative harness for Dionysus's panthers. She picks it up. Ting. A clear, sweet note. But how to drop it inside something at a set time? Too bulky. Then her gaze lands on the hollow reed itself. A simple tube. It resonated when struck. Could a small weight falling inside it? She picks up a reed, holds it vertically, drops the small lintel down its length. Tock. A dull, unimpressive thud. No resonance. The reed needed to be fixed, anchored, part of a chamber. Like the jar. But the jar was clay, heavy, static. What if the resonator was small, portable? What if? Her fingers brush against a small, smooth, oval-shaped river stone on her work table, a paperweight. It's cool, dense. She taps it with a fingernail. Tink. A faint, high note. Hardly resonant. Frustration flickers. Time is short. Hermes' 10 minutes feels like 10 heartbeats. The War Council awaits. Ares a smarkloom. She needs to go. But the idea nags. Simplicity, elegance, self-containment. What if? As she turns to leave, her foot nudges a small, empty oil lamp discarded under the work table. It rolls, bumping against a leg. A hollow, almost musical thunk echoes from it. Athena stops dead. She picks up the lamp. It's small, light, hollow, unglazed clay. She holds it up, taps it. Thunk. Deeper than the stone, more resonant than the reed alone. Her eyes widen. She looks at the lamp, looks at the hollow reed, looks at a pile of tiny polished pebbles, smaller than lentils, used for inlaying intricate designs. A slow, radiant smile, brighter than any sunbeam, spreads across Athena's face. It wasn't poetry interrupted. It was the next stanza beginning. Noctua, she whispers, eyes alight with pure, unadulterate inspiration. Cancel the beeswax order. I need smaller pebbles. The hybrid alarm ticked on the table. The solar alarm sat dormant. But Athena, goddess of wisdom, was already racing towards her next iteration. The small clay lamp clutched in her hand like a revelation. True simplicity wasn't just elegant. It was pocket-sized.
That small clay lamp? It's not holding oil anymore. It's holding the future. Tiny, smooth, and frustratingly prone to rolling off tables. You watch, perched on the lip of Athena's now crowded work table as she becomes an artisan of the miniature. The discarded oil lamp is cleaned, its wick hole widened just slightly. Beside it lies a growing collection of river pebbles, dark basalt, pale quartz, speckled granite, each no larger than a lentil, meticulously polished smooth by divine abrasives. Probably sand from the sticks, knowing Athena. Noctua supervises the pebble selection, occasionally rejecting one with a disdainful beak poke. Resonance chamber, Athena murmurs, tapping the hollow lamp. Thunk. Impact agent, she adds, holding up a perfect obsidian black pebble. Self-contained potential. She drops the pebble into the lamp's open top. It rattles down inside, landing with a soft tock. Not quite right. Too dull. Mainstream context, portable timekeeping wouldn't exist for millennia. Pocket watches, sundial rings. But the desire for it? Ancient. Rulers, merchants, priests, all craved control over time beyond sunrise/sunset. Athena was chasing a god-sized, or rather, goddess pocket-sized dream. Now the wonderfully specific problem. How to make the pebble drop inside the lamp at a specific time. Hephaestus's device was powerful but bulky. Her solar trigger was elegant but weather-dependent. She needed something smaller, integrated. Her solution is deviously simple. She takes a slender, hollow reed, shorter this time, and seals one end with a dab of clear tree resin. She fills it precisely halfway with fine, dry sand from the hourglass beaches of the underworld, known for its consistent flow. The open end gets stoppered with a tiny carved cork. This sand-filled reed becomes her timer. Next, she crafts a delicate cradle for the reed from thin bronze wire, suspending it horizontally inside the clay lamp just below its widened opening. The cradle is pivoted at its center. One end holds the sand-filled reed, the other end is bent upwards into a tiny hook. Finally, the release.
She threads a gossamer-fine strand of spider silk through a tiny hole bored near the lamp's rim. One end is tied to the hook on the reed cradle. The other end is anchored to the inside wall. The silk is taut, holding the cradle level, the sand-filled reed horizontal. Gravity works slowly, Athena explains to Noctua, setting the lamp upright. Sand flows to the sealed end. She mimes the reed tilting as the sand weight shifts. Cradle tips, hook pulls, silk snaps. She mimes the silk breaking. Then she tips the lamp slightly. The pebble inside rattles and would fall onto the now uncovered base of the lamp if the silk snapped. It's a Rube Goldberg device of divine minimalism. Sand flows, reed tips, hook pulls, silk snaps, pebble drops, tak, thunk. The scholarly squabble ignites. Was this the first integrated sand timer alarm? Almost certainly. But was it practical? Sand flow vary with humidity, grain size, divine whim. Trial 1. Athena inverts the sand-filled reed, starting the flow. She sets the lamp down, waits. Sand whispers downward inside the sealed reed. Slowly, so slowly. You could weave a small tapestry in the time it takes for enough sand to shift. Finally, the reed tilts slightly. The hook twitches. The spider silk stretches and stretches. It doesn't snap. The cradle groans back to level. Failure. Tensile strength miscalculated, Athena mutters, poking the stubbornly intact silk. Trial 2. Thicker silk, stronger pull. She inverts the reed, sand flows. Reed tips, hook pulls, snap. The silk parts. The cradle jerks violently. The sand-filled reed tumbles free, spilling black sand everywhere inside the lamp like volcanic ash. The pebble rattles, but doesn't fall cleanly. Silence, punctuated by the soft hiss of falling sand. Athena groans, picking up the lamp and shaking out a small black sandstorm onto her work table. Noctua sneezes. Trial 3. Athena reduces the sand quantity. Thinner silk, more precise cradle balance. She inverts the reed, sand flows, agonizingly slowly. The reed tilts, millimeter by millimeter. The hook strains, the silk stretches. Ping. A tiny, almost musical snap. The silk parts. The cradle tips. The sand-filled reed, mostly upright now, stays put. The pebble inside the lamp rolls lazily sideways, doesn't drop, lands with a muffled thud against the clay wall. No resonance. Frustration simmers. Outside, the distant sounds of the war council starting. Eris's booming laughter, Hephaestus's metallic clanging, Zeus's rumbling pronouncements. Athena is missing her own strategy session about strategy. The irony burns. Suddenly, Noctua hops onto the table. It eyes the failed lap contraption. Then, with surprising dexterity for talents, it picks up a tiny discarded bronze gear from Hephaestus's earlier device, smaller than a lentil. It holds the gear in its beak, looks at Athena, then, deliberately, drops it into the open top of the clay lamp. The gear falls, hits the curved inner wall, tinks off of it, hits the opposite wall, tinks again, and finally lands on the base. Tink, 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 tonk. A rapid, uneven, metallic rattle. Not the clean thunk she wanted, but definitely attention-grabbing. Athena stares at the lamp, stares at the gear, stares at Noctua. An idea wild and unformed sparks. What if the weight itself was the resonator? What if she didn't need the clay to resonate? What if the dropped object made its own sound? She dumps the gear and pebble out. She rummages frantically through her odds and ends. Bronze shavings, silver wire snippets, fragments of seashell. Her fingers close on a small, perfectly spherical bead of blue faience, left over from Aphrodite's latest necklace design. She taps it. A faint, high tink. Not great. Then, her gaze lands on a tiny, discarded bronze owl figurine. A charm meant for a child's bracelet, cast aside for being slightly lopsided. She picks it up. It's hollow. She taps it with a fingernail. Ping. A clear, bright, resonant note. Pure, sweet, unmistakable. Athena freezes. Her breath catches. Hollow bronze, lightweight, resonant, and shaped like her sacred bird. It was perfect. She holds the tiny owl charm over the open lamp, drops it. It falls straight down, unimpeded. Ping! The sound is beautiful, clear, bright, resonant, echoing faintly within the clay chamber. A miniature bell tolling the hour. No sand timer, no silk thread, no cradle. Just gravity. A hollow bronze owl and a clay cup to catch it and amplify the ping ever so slightly. The simplicity was breathtaking. The elegance divine. A slow, radiant smile of pure, unadulterated triumph spreads across Athena's face. She scoops up the tiny owl charm, cradling it like the most precious gem. "Noctua," she whispers, her voice thick with awe. "We don't need sand. We don't need silk. We just need this." She looks at Hephaestus's intricate timing device still ticking on her bedside table. Its complexity suddenly seemed irrelevant, crude even. All she needed was a way to hold the little bronze owl and let it drop at dawn. And for that, she already had the perfect, simple solution. The one that had worked reliably, if inelegantly, before. The one involving sacred beeswax and a sunbeam. But applied now to something tiny, something beautiful. She picked up a fresh strand of Hymettus beeswax. This time, she didn't need a lever. She just needed to suspend the little bronze owl over the open lamp, anchored by wax, until the sun melted its tether. Simplicity, redundancy, and now beauty. The hybrid horror ticked forgotten. The sand lamp sat abandoned. Athena, goddess of wisdom, held her true alarm clock in her palm. It was small, it was hollow, and it went ping. Now she just had to make sure Dawn cooperated, or finally swallow her pride and ask Hephaestus for a very small, very reliable timer spring. But for now, ping was perfection.
That tiny bronze owl? It dangles, suspended over the open clay lamp by a thread of sacred beeswax thinner than a spider's sigh. You watch, perched on the cold stone of the windowsill, as the first, faintest blush of gray light seeps into the chamber. Below, Athena sleeps, a picture of cautious optimism. Noctua sits sentinel on the headboard, eyes fixed on the dangling charm, unblinking. The hybrid ticker and the solar jar stand silent sentries nearby, but all hopes rest on the hollow owl and its waxen tether. The setup is absurdly simple. 1. The clay lamp sits centered on a small marble pedestal by the window. 2. The bronze owl charm hangs precisely above its open mouth, suspended from a delicate bronze armature attached to the window frame. 3. The thread of Hymettus beeswax connects the owl's loop to the armature. 4. The first direct sunbeam is calculated to hit the wax. That's it. Potential energy stored in position. Release triggered by solar phase change. Acoustic notification via hollow bronze impact. Athena's elegant endgame. Mainstream context. While complex clepsydra existed, true portable timekeeping wouldn't emerge for centuries. Athena's dangling owl wasn't just an alarm, it was a conceptual leap towards personal time sovereignty, the divine ancestor of the pocket watch chime. Now the wonderfully specific tension. Sacred Hymettus beeswax was renowned for its purity and high melting point under direct focused heat. Would the diluted early dawn light filtered through miles of atmosphere and possibly lingering haze muster enough energy?
Or would the wax merely soften, sag, and leave the owl dangling impotently? Scrolls suggest Athena sacrificed a drop of nectar to Apollo that night just in case. The gray light deepens, shifting towards lavender. Outside, Olympus stirs, distant clatter from Hephaestus's forge, the faint clip-clop of a celestial horse being groomed. Inside the chamber, silence reigns, thick with anticipation. Athena's breathing is slow, deep. Noctua's feathers are unnaturally still. You, the fly, resist the urge to buzz-test the wax. A sliver of gold appears on the distant horizon. Not bright, not warm, but direct. The beam, narrow as a needle, pierces the high window. It crawls with agonizing slowness across the cool floor, climbs the leg of the marble pedestal, touches the base of the clay lamp, and finally, like a golden finger finding its target, strikes the thin white thread of sacred wax. Nothing happens instantly. The wax glistens, absorbing the light. A tiny bead of moisture, impossibly small, forms where the beam kisses it. Athena murmurs in her sleep, turning over. Noctua leans forward imperceptibly. The bead swells, slowly. It elongates, stretching, the wax thread thinner, thinner. An almost inaudible sigh. Not a snap, a surrender. The wax thread stretches, yields, and parts. Silence. The tiny bronze owl charm, suddenly freed, drops. Straight, true, down through the still air. Into the open mouth of the waiting clay lamp. Ping. The sound is exquisite, clear, bright, resonant, a single pure musical note that hangs in the quiet air. It's not loud, but it's profoundly present, a sonic tap on the shoulder of consciousness. Athena's eyes fly open, not a bolt upright jolt, but a swift, alert awakening. Her gaze snaps instantly to the lamp. The ping still vibrates in the clay, fading gently. She sees the owl charm nestled inside, sees the two severed ends of the wax thread, sees the triumphant sliver of sunbeam now warming the lamp's rim. A slow, deep breath fills her lungs. Not relief, not triumph, satisfaction. Pure, unadulterated, elegant satisfaction. It worked, exactly as physics and faith had promised. Noctua lets out a soft, low hoo, a sound of profound owl approval. Downstairs, the usual pre-council rumble is absent. Only the ordinary sounds of Olympian morning drift up. Zeus's thunder, it seems, remains mercifully sheathed. Athena rises, stretching with a languid grace. No panic, no scramble. She picks up the clay lamp, tipping the tiny bronze owl charm into her palm. It's cool, light, perfect. She runs a thumb over its slightly lopsided wings, a flaw that somehow made the ping sweeter. Here's the academic squabble. Did the sound wake her, or the absence of mechanical dread? Scholars of aerodynamics, dream physics, argue the pure resonant note bypassed normal sleep defenses, while behavioral theologists insist the lack of Eris-induced anxiety was the true catalyst. Athena, polishing the owl with her peplos, wouldn't care. It worked. She dresses deliberately, fingers weaving her hair into its usual severe braid. No borrowed time, no divine intervention needed, just sun, wax, gravity, and cleverness. She fastened her aegis, the polished bronze gleaming. Today, she wouldn't be strategizing border disputes. Today, she'd be taking requests. As she leaves her chamber, lamp and owl charm in hand, she pauses at the doorway. She glances back at the hybrid ticker, still dutifully counting seconds it no longer governed. At the solar lentil jar, its wax slack. They looked quaint, like relics. A small, knowing smile touches her lips. Simplicity hadn't just won. It had rendered complexity obsolete. The germ of the pebble alarm, the frustration with clouds, the clunky hybrid horror, they had all led here, to a hollow bronze owl and a melting thread, to a ping that whispered, instead of shouted, dawn. It was the most boringly brilliant thing she'd ever made, and Olympus would never oversleep the same way again.
You follow Athena, a ghostly shadow clinging to the cool marble hem of her peplos, into the bustling hall of hearings. The usual pre-meeting chaos hums. Hermes zipping between thrones, delivering scrolls. Demeter arguing with Dionysus about vine blight. Poseidon sketching title charts on the floor with his trident. Zeus sits, looking marginally less thunderous, sipping nectar. Ares leans against his throne, idly polishing a spearhead, his smirk firmly in place, ready to deploy. Athena walks in, not with a hurried apology, but with a quiet, steady confidence. Heads turn. Hermes pauses mid-zoom. Eris's polishing slows, his eyes narrowing at her punctuality. She doesn't rush to her seat. Instead, she walks calmly to the small, ornate table beside Zeus's dais, usually reserved for ceremonial offerings or particularly vexing border maps. She places the simple clay lamp down with deliberate care. Then, from a fold in her peplos, she produces the tiny bronze owl charm. The silence that ripples out isn't shocked, but puzzled. Apollo raises a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Hera sniffs. Hephaestus, hunched near the back, peers intently, his forge-scarred brow furrowing. "Father," Athena says, her voice clear and calm, cutting through the murmur. "My apologies for recent inefficiencies. I believe I have addressed the issue." She gestures to the lamp and the owl. "Behold, the Eos Crustis, the dawn tapper." Eris lets out a short, sharp bark of laughter. "Brainy brought a flower pot and a trinket to council? Is this your new strategy for Thessaly? Bury them in trinkets?" He grins, looking around for support. A few nervous titters echo. Athena ignores him. She picks up the owl charm. "Potential energy," she states, holding it over the open lamp. "Stored by position." She lets it drop. Ping! The sound, clear and bright as a struck crystal goblet, rings out in the vast hall. Conversations die instantly. Every divine eye fixes on the little lamp. The ping echoes faintly off the high ceiling before fading into a profound silence. Zeus lowers his nectar cup slowly. "A noisemaker?" he rumbles, his tone unreadable. "A signal, Father," Athena corrects gently. "A reliable herald of dawn. Independent of celestial whims," she adds, with a subtle glance towards Apollo, who looks mildly affronted. "Or complex machinery." Her gaze flicks almost imperceptibly towards Hephaestus, who merely grunts, his eyes fixed on the charm now resting in the lamp. Mainstream nugget. Sundials and water clocks ruled ancient timekeeping, but audible signals marking specific times were rare and usually tied to communal devices like complex water clocks in agoras or temple bells rung by priests. A personal, portable audible timer? That was novel, bordering on heretical. "Reliable?" Eris scoffs, recovering first. He saunters forward, peering into the lamp. "Looks like you drop a toy into a cup. Big deal. My war horn's louder." Athena replies smoothly, "Precision is, and independence. This," she taps the lamp, "is merely the resonator. The mechanism," she picks up the owl and holds it aloft, "is triggered by the dawn itself." She explains, concisely, the sacred wax thread, the focused sunbeam, the melting point, the drop. Gravity and light, simple, elegant, unfailing. Unlike some, her tone implies. Hephaestus limps forward, the clank thump of his steps loud in the silence. He reaches out a soot-blackened hand. Athena places the owl charm in his palm. He turns it over, taps it with a thick fingernail. Ping! Peers at its hollow interior, feels its weight. He grunts again. Sacred wax, melts. Owl drops.
Ping. He looks up at Athena. Simple, elegant. He pauses, then adds, almost grudgingly, effective. He hands it back. High praise from the god of complex ingenuity. Apollo drifts over, drawn by the mention of light. He examines the spot where the sunbeam would hit. High metis wax, high melt point. Needs direct dawn light. Cloud cover? He raises an eyebrow. A valid concern, Athena concedes, hence the simplicity. Redundancy is easily incorporated. She doesn't mention her hybrid monstrosity back in the workshop. Multiple tethers, different wax blends, or, she adds, with the faintest glance at Hephaestus, a small, very reliable spring mechanism as a secondary trigger could be integrated. Hephaestus grunts again. Ars just rolls his eyes. Still sounds like a fancy way to drop a bauble. Give me a gong any day. Wakes the dead and the lazy. He shoots Athena a pointed look. Scholarly spat. Was the Eos Chrustis truly unfailing? Critics, often aligned with Eris's school of thought, point out its vulnerability to weather and its dependence on precise positioning. Proponents argue its revolutionary simplicity and the conceptual leap it represented. Personal, automated time signaling. The real debate? Did any Olympian actually adopt it besides Athena? Evidence is scant, though Persephone was rumored to have requested one tuned to her return from the underworld. Zeus finally speaks. Enough. His voice cuts through the murmur. He looks at Athena, then at the little lamp and owl. If it ensures punctuality, daughter, then it serves its purpose. He gestures dismissively. Place it where it won't ping during deliberations. Now, he bones, shifting gears. Nemean lions. Reports suggest overpopulation near Megara. Eris, your proposed solution involves setting them on the Spartans? We require subtlety. As Eris launches into a defensive rant about Spartan resilience, Athena retrieves her lamp and owl. She catches Hephaestus's eye again. He gives another tiny nod, then turns and limps away, already muttering about miniature springs and adjustable levers. Hermes zips over, eyes wide with curiosity. So, the Dawn Tapper, eh? Think it could work for me? You know, tuned to when the markets open in Alexandria? Or maybe when Echo finally stops repeating the last thing His voice fades as he follows her. Athena finds a small, sun-drenched niche near a high window. She positions the lamp carefully. Using a sliver of fresh hymettus wax, she suspends the little bronze owl once again, its hollow belly poised over the clay mouth. The germ of her idea, born from oversleeping panic, refined through failure, and crystallized by a hollow charm, now hung ready. It wasn't just an alarm. It was a declaration. Time, even for a goddess, could be gently, predictably, boringly mastered. As the council drones on about lion demographics, the first golden rays of mid-morning stream through the window, warming the marble floor far below the suspended owl. Its purpose fulfilled for today, it simply hung, a tiny, patient sentinel, waiting for the next dawn, waiting for its next ping. And somewhere, deep in the labyrinthine corridors of Olympus, the faint, rhythmic tick, tick, tick of a rejected, complex heart of bronze continued its lonely, relentless beat.
You drift, a wisp of consciousness carried on the scent of olive groves and baking bread, down from the sun-drenched marbles of Olympus to the warm, dusty chaos of an Athenian potter's workshop. The air here is thick with the smell of wet clay, wood smoke, and ambition. Kyrios, the potter, sweat beading on his brow, squints at a papyrus sketch clutched in his soot-stained hand, a crude rendering of a clay lamp with something dangling over it, whispered down from a cousin who served nectar on high. So, Kyrios mutters to his apprentice, a boy named Lycos whose eyes are wide with sleep deprivation. The Lady of Wisdom wakes herself with this? A pot and a bird? He jabs a thick finger at the sketch. Seems simple. Lycos yawns, wiping clay from his cheek. Simple's good, Master Kyrios.
Maybe we could sell them. Curiosus Craustus, wake like a god. Mainstream knowledge. News traveled fast, even from Olympus. Gossip from servants, merchants, and the occasional demigod visitor filtered divine innovations down to mortals within weeks. Athenian artisans were particularly adept at copying and monetizing divine trends, from winged sandal knockoffs to discount Aegis shields made of painted leather. Curios grunts, unconvinced but sensing drachmae. He grabs a freshly thrown oil lamp, smaller than usual. Fine, bird first. He rummages in a scrap bin, pulling out a slightly lopsided clay owl charm, rejected from a child's rattle batch. This'll do. Now, the sticky bit. Delightfully obscure detail. Mortals couldn't get sacred Hymettus beeswax. They used common altar wax, blended with fig sap for elasticity and a pinch of ground magnetite dust, believed to attract the sun's attention. The result was a sticky, dark brown gum that smelled faintly of burnt sugar and desperation. You watch as Curios heats a blob of the dubious wax over a small oil flame. It bubbles ominously. He dips one end of a coarse linen thread into it, then sticks it to the clay owl charm. The other end gets gummed messily to a bent bronze wire armature fixed above the lamp. The owl dangles, lopsided and tragic over the lamp's opening. The wax blob glistens, threatening to drip. Right, Curios declares, wiping his hands on his tunic. Dawn simulator. He gestures to Lycos, who holds up a clay disc painted bright yellow, mimicking the sun. He slowly moves it towards the wax blob. Is it working, master? Lycos whispers, squinting. Patience, boy. Divine mechanics take. Plop. The magnetite-laced wax blob, overheated and overburdened, detaches entirely from the thread and falls, landing with a wet splat inside the lamp. The clay owl charm, suddenly freed, swings wildly on its thread and bunks against the lamp's rim with a dull thud. Silence. Curios stares. Lycos lowers the sun disk, deflated. Curios rumbles. Needs refinement. Stronger wax. Better bird. Meanwhile, in a stuffy banker's villa near the Agora, you witness another attempt. Ariston, plump and perpetually worried about market openings, has paid a small fortune for a true dawn tapper, divine inspiration guaranteed. His version features a beautiful but solid silver owl charm suspended by a thin gold wire over an alabaster bowl. The wax, pure, expensive Hymettus, smuggled down at great cost. Ariston positions it meticulously on his balcony, facing east. He retires, hopeful. Dawn arrives, gray and drizzly. The weak light touches the sacred wax. It softens, sags, stretches, but holds. Ariston sleeps through the crucial market bell. He awakes later to find his expensive silver owl dangling limply, still attached by the stretched gummy wax, inches above the alabaster bowl. Defeated by a cloud. Scholarly squabble. Did any mortal successfully replicate the Eos Craustus? Archaeologists find countless small lamps and charms, but proof of functional integration is elusive. Some argue the wax sun method was fundamentally flawed for mortals due to inconsistent weather and inferior materials. Others suggest successful models existed but were lost, broken, or simply recognized as useless and discarded. The most heated debate rages over a peculiar clay shard found in Corinth, depicting a pot, a bird, and a frowning man shaking his fist at the sky. Back on Olympus, you flit to Athena's workshop window. She's observing the mortal attempts through a polished bronze mirror scrying pool, her expression a mix of amusement and mild horror. Noctua hoots softly beside her, watching a Theban blacksmith trying to use a lemon as a counterweight. Oh dear, Athena murmurs, wincing as the lemon squashes, sending a bronze pulley crashing onto the blacksmith's foot. They're focusing on the things, not the principles. She sighs, picking up her own tiny bronze owl, turning it over in her fingers. Its perfect ping felt worlds away from the plops, thuds, and squashed lemons below. The gap between divine ingenuity and mortal imitation felt vast. Then her gaze sharpens. In the scrying pool, a new figure appears. Not a potter or a merchant, but a thin, intense man in a philosopher's simple cloak. He's in a small courtyard, observing a cracked replica lamp with keen interest. He picks up the discarded clay owl charm, taps it, listens to the dull sound, then looks thoughtfully up at the sky. He doesn't reach for wax or lemons. He reaches for a stylus and a wax tablet. Interesting, Athena murmurs, leaning closer. He's not copying the device. He's contemplating the idea of it, the measurement, the signal. The philosopher, you recognize him as Anaximander of Miletus, visiting Athens, sketches not the lamp, but intersecting lines, the sun's arc, the horizon, angles of light. He writes words beside it: kairos, the opportune moment; metron, measure; semeion, sign. Anaximander doesn't build an alarm. He walks away, deep in thought, his tablet filled with angles and questions. His attempt is a different kind of failure, a failure to replicate, but a spark of understanding. Athena leans back, a thoughtful smile replacing the horror. Perhaps they won't wake with a ping, she says to Noctua, but they might just think differently about dawn. Below, Kyrios the potter gives up on the wax. He glues the clay owl permanently onto the lamp's rim with more fig sap. There, he declares to Lycos, decorative dawn tapper, just as good, probably. He places it on a shelf next to a jug painted with very confused-looking satyrs. The owl stares blankly ahead, forever frozen in mid-plunge. Its purpose, like so many mortal understandings of the divine, had been subtly, irrevocably altered. It wasn't a tool anymore. It was a story, a rumor cast in clay. And somewhere in Miletus looked at a sundial shadow and wondered about automated bells. The journey of the ping had only just begun.
You drift south, carried on the scent of incense and salt, to the sun-baked stones of the temple of Hera at Samos. Here, time isn't measured by owls or pings, but by the slow, sacred drip of water. The head priestess, Theano, her face serene but her eyes shadowed with fatigue, watches the temple's great clepsydra. It's a marvel, bronze vessels, interconnected tubes, floating indicators marking the hours for prayers, offerings, and the crucial opening of the inner sanctum at dawn. But it requires constant vigilance. A sleepy acolyte, a blocked tube, a misjudged refill, chaos. News of Athena's Eos Croustus, filtered through trader gossip and a visiting philosopher's musings, has reached even these hallowed halls. Theano studies a crude sketch, lamp, dangling object, wax, brought by a merchant from Piraeus. She frowns. Sacred Hymettus wax? Unobtainable. Reliance on a clear dawn? Unthinkable for a temple whose rites demanded punctuality regardless of weather. Mainstream context, temple clepsydrae were engineering marvels, often featuring intricate float valves, geared mechanisms, courtesy of Hephaestus-inspired smiths, and audible alarms, usually weights dropping onto bronze plates or whistles triggered by water pressure. But they were large, fixed, and required skilled maintenance. The dream of a small, reliable alarm was potent. Precision, Theano murmurs, tracing the water's path in the great clepsydra. Not novelty. She dismisses the owl and lamp sketch. But the idea of an automated signal independent of weary human eyes, that lingers. Delightfully obscure adaptation, inspired not by the device, but by the principle of stored potential energy and triggered release, Theano's solution is born of temple pragmatism. She commissions the local bronzesmith, a devout man terrified of displeasing Hera, to create something new within the existing clepsydra. You watch as he installs a small secondary chamber high up in the water clock structure. Inside sits a hollow, perfectly spherical bronze ball, heavier than water. A carefully calibrated thin ceramic tube connects this chamber to the main water flow.
As the water level in the main reservoir drops overnight, marking the passage towards dawn, water slowly drains from the secondary chamber too. The ball rests on a delicate bronze seal at the chamber's bottom. As the water drains below the ball, air pressure shifts, and precisely at the moment corresponding to dawn, the seal pops open. The bronze ball drops. It falls down a vertical polished bronze chute and strikes a perfectly tuned crescent-shaped bronze gong. Boom! The sound is deep, resonant, immense. It vibrates through the temple stones, echoing in the pre-dawn stillness. Not a ping, a profound, awe-inspiring bong. A sound fit to rouse the heavens, or at least a dozing acolyte. Theano, witnessing the first successful trial, allows herself a rare small smile. No sacred wax, no fickle sun, just water, gravity, air pressure, and bronze. It worked. Hera would be punctually honored. Scholarly squabble? Was Samos's dawn gong a derivative of Athena's concept? Purists argue it was an independent evolution of clepsydra technology. Integrationists point to the merchant sketch found in Theano's scroll archives and the timing of the innovation. The real debate? Did the gong's deep resonance accidentally wake Hypnos, god of sleep, whose sacred cave was rumored to be nearby? Local myths suggest an upkick in grumpy dreams that year. Meanwhile, back in a cramped Alexandrian library annex, you find Eratosthenes, years later, hunched over a map and a complex clepsydra of his own design. He's wrestling with longitude, needing synchronized time signals across Egypt. He's heard whispers of the Samian gong, the failed mortal Croustus attempts, and Athena's original ping. He sketches not devices, but principles. Stored energy, weight position, trigger mechanism, water flow, melting, mechanical release. He circles the word synchronicity. His alarm isn't for waking, but for knowing the exact same moment happens elsewhere. The germ of the idea, stripped of its divine origins and mortal clumsiness, is evolving into something bigger, the measurement of time across space. Athena, observing through her scrying pool, sees Eratosthenes' diagrams, she sees the Samian gong, she sees Hieros' glued-on owl lamp collecting dust, she sees Anaximander's angles. A slow nod of approval. They weren't copying her owl, they were chasing the ghost of the idea she'd unleashed. Time captured and signaled. Her ping had been a spark. Now, across the mortal world, in temples, libraries, and workshops, that spark was catching different tinder, flaring into diverse flames. The boring little bean drop had started a quiet revolution, not in waking up, but in thinking about time itself. And on her windowsill, her own tiny bronze owl, suspended by sacred wax, caught the next dawn's first ray. Ping. A small sound, a satisfied goddess. A world slowly, noisily, thoughtfully, learning to listen for the moments.
The ping. It's become a punctuation mark in the divine day. You watch, nestled in the curve of a sun-warmed marble acanthus leaf on Athena's windowsill, as Olympus adjusts to the rhythm of the little bronze owl. Dawn is no longer heralded solely by Apollo's chariot scraping the horizon or Hermes' frantic pre-meeting zips. It's marked by a clear, contained note from a niche near the Hall of Hearings. The effects are subtle, pervasive, and deeply, boringly practical. Apollo, initially miffed at the implied redundancy of his sun chariot as timekeeper, finds himself appreciating the extra moments for lyre tuning. No more pre-dawn panic over suboptimal luminosity gradients. He arrives at dawn councils looking suspiciously well-rested, his golden hair actually combed. He even gifts Athena a tiny sun-bright topaz to embed in her owl's hollow belly. Not for function, purely for aesthetic solidarity.
Hera, notorious for her dramatic entrances timed to maximize attention, discovers her arrivals feel less impactful when half the pantheon is already seated, sipping nectar, discussing grain tariffs. She commissions a similar, larger ping device using a silver dove and a porphyry bowl, tuned to chime precisely 3 minutes after Athena's, ensuring she remains fashionably, divinely late. Mainstream context. While mortals struggled, the idea of personal timekeeping subtly reshaped divine routines. Council meetings start, mostly, on time. Hephaestus schedules forge temperings with newfound precision. Even Dionysus tones down the all-night revels, occasionally, citing dawn commitments. The concept of divine standard time emerges, unofficially anchored by Athena's owl. Delightfully obscure detail. Hypnos, god of sleep, becomes an unexpected beneficiary. Fewer pre-dawn divine crises caused by oversleeping disturb his tranquil realm. He sends Athena a woven blanket of eternal twilight fluff as thanks. She uses it to muffle the hybrid ticker monstrosity, finally silencing its lonely tick-tick-tick. Only Eris remains stubbornly unimpressed. He stages a dramatic gong dawn ceremony one morning outside Athena's chamber involving 6 cyclops, a hammer the size of a tree trunk, and a shield-sized bronze disc. The resulting kerrang shatters 3 stained glass windows, wakes every nymph within 5 leagues, and startled Zeus mid-sip, causing him to spill hot nectar on his ambrosia. Eris spends the next week polishing every shard of glass on Olympus as punishment. He glares daggers at the serene little owl lamp whenever he passes it. Meanwhile, Hermes sees opportunity. He starts a side hustle, Ping Plus Delivery. Using miniature, spring-wound timers, courtesy of a begrudgingly collaborative Hephaestus, he attaches tiny hollow charms, dolphins for Poseidon, lyres for Apollo, grapes for Dionysus, to message scrolls. Set to ping upon arrival, they ensure urgent missives aren't buried under less pressing divine spam, like Aphrodite's endless party invites. The ping evolves from alarm to notification system. Scholarly spat. Did the Eos Christus improve divine governance? Traditionalists argue punctuality stifled Olympian spontaneity, the source of many legendary and chaotic adventures. Progressives cite fewer border wars started due to misaligned dawn strategies. The most heated scroll burnings concern whether Hera's deliberate 3-minute delay constituted the first divine snooze button. Athena observes it all with quiet satisfaction. She doesn't seek accolades for the ping. Its success lies in its quiet integration, its transformation from panic-driven project to mundane utility. The germ of the idea, born from tripping over a pebble, fertilized by owl-assisted accidents, and tempered by cloudy failures, had taken root. One evening, as the last rays of Apollo's chariot warm the marble, Athena stands by her window. She holds the original little bronze owl, its lopsided wings catching the light. Noctua perches on her shoulder. Below, the lights of mortal cities wink like scattered earthbound stars. She knows Kyrios is glued on owls gather dust. She knows Ariston curses cloudy mornings, and Eratosthenes ponders time across deserts. The ping hadn't conquered time, it had simply made a small, clear space within it. A signal, a reminder, a tiny, resonant moment of order in the beautiful, sprawling chaos of existence, divine and mortal alike. It was profoundly useful, and in its usefulness, it was quietly revolutionary. She suspends the owl once more over its lamp with a fresh thread of sacred wax. The moon rises, casting silver streaks across the floor. The workshop is still, tools resting, prototypes retired. Only the owl waits, a small sentinel of bronze, ready to greet the dawn with its simple, perfect note. Athena smiles, not the triumphant grin of the inventor, but the soft, contented curve of a problem solved, a rhythm found. "Good night, Noctua," she murmurs. "Hoo," replies the owl, soft as down. The last lamp flickers out. You are no longer just a fly on the wall. You are the stillness itself, the cool marble under unseen feet, the faint scent of cedar oil lingering from Athena's braid, the velvety darkness that cradles the chamber, deep and complete. That final lamp glow is a memory. The ping is an echo in the stones. Even the rustle of noctuous feathers settling on its perch near the head of the sleeping couch is a sound absorbed by the profound quiet. Time stretches, elastic and soft. The moon, silver and full, pours its light through the high window, painting a slow, deliberate path across the floor. It touches the abandoned hybrid ticker first, shrouded under hypnosis' twilight blanket, rendering it a shapeless, silent mound. Then it creeps over the silent solar jar, its lentil lever a stark silhouette against the pale beam, its wax thread hanging slack and forgotten. The moonlight flows like liquid silver, silent and patient, claiming the space inch by inch. It reaches the small marble pedestal by the window. There, the clay lamp sits, cool and empty. Above it, suspended by a thread finer than thought, the tiny bronze owl hangs motionless. Moonlight glints on its lopsided wings, on Apollo's embedded topaz catching a stray gleam. It doesn't look like an alarm anymore. It looks like a small, perfect constellation fallen to earth, a silent promise waiting for the sun's return. A promise of order, gently kept. A gentle truth. The Greeks saw sleep as a cousin to death, a crossing into a realm ruled by Hypnos and his brother Thanatos. Yet they also cherished it as a gift, a necessary retreat where the mind could wander beyond the limits of the waking world. Temples dedicated to Asclepius, god of healing, featured abaton, special dormitories where the sick slept, hoping for divine diagnosis or cure through dreams. Sleep wasn't passive. It was a sacred, vulnerable space. A single mote of dust, stirred by some unfelt celestial breath, drifts into the moonbeam. It floats, turning slowly, catching the light like a miniature world adrift in the vastness of the chamber. You watch its languid dance, a silent ballet performed for no audience but the night itself. It spirals downwards, impossibly slow, drawn by a gravity felt only by the smallest things. A forgotten whisper. Before counting sheep, some ancient Greeks whispered the names of the 50 nereids, sea nymphs, believing their calming oceanic rhythm could lull the restless mind. Others placed a sprig of fresh verbena under their pillow, its lemony scent thought to ward off anxious dreams and invite hypnosis' gentle touch. It was a quieter magic, woven from herbs and whispered names. Where does the dream begin? Is it when the moonbeam touches your closed eyes? Or when the memory of the ping, that clear, bright note, dissolves into the fabric of the quiet, becoming part of the silence itself? Scholars still debate the threshold. Was the dream world a separate realm, or merely the waking mind unspooling in the dark? Some fragments from Alexandria suggest a theory of waking seeds planted by the day, blooming into dreams at night. Others, etched on older tablets near Delphi, speak of dreams as messages carried on moonbeams, needing stillness to be received. The truth, like the dust mote, drifts just beyond grasp. The moonlight reaches the edge of Athena's sleeping couch. It touches the hem of the twilight fluff blanket Hypnos gifted her. The goddess sleeps, her face smoothed of strategy or worry, looking younger in the silver light. One hand rests loosely open near the pillow, not clutching wisdom, not weaving fate, just resting. Noctua's head is tucked under its wing, a soft, feathered mound of stillness. The only movement is the slow, steady rise and fall of Athena's breath, a quiet tide in the moonlit room. The dust mote finally lands, soundless, on the cool marble floor beside the pedestal. Its journey ends. The moonlight continues its slow crawl, claiming more of the chamber, illuminating tools resting on shelves, scrolls rolled tight, the quiet ghosts of abandoned prototypes. The air hums with a silence so deep it feels like a presence, the sound of the world holding its breath, of time itself pausing, cradled in the vast, gentle palm of the night. You feel yourself drifting now, not on wings, but on that quiet tide of breath. The boundaries soften. Are you the moonlight on the floor, the stillness in the air, the echo of the ping fading into the dark? The chamber, Olympus, the distant murmur of the mortal world below, it all blurs, receding like a shoreline at dusk. There's only the deep, enveloping quiet, the soft rhythm of rest, and the slow silver path of the moon, a silent river flowing through the heart of the night. The tiny bronze owl hangs suspended, a silent sentinel in the silver dark, waiting, not for dawn, not yet, but for the deep, restoring quiet to do its perfect, necessary work. The last conscious thought, like the dust mote, settles and is still. The silence deepens further, becoming absolute, filled only by the slow, imagined rhythm of breathing and the vast, gentle expanse of the night itself. And in this stillness, deeper than any ocean trench, softer than the finest spun twilight fluff, you feel the gentle tug. Not toward sleep, for you are already cradled within its embrace, but deeper still. Down, where thoughts lose their sharp edges, melting like the sacred wax under a dawn yet unborn. Down, where the memory of bronze owls and lentil drops dissolve into the warm, formless dark. The moonlight on the floor isn't just light anymore. It's a path made of liquid silver, cool and soothing against the unseen souls of your spirit, inviting you to walk its length not with steps, but with a sigh that unravels the last knot of wakefulness. The distant whisper of wind through those unseen olive groves below Olympus isn't wind at all now. It's the sound of the world breathing, a slow, rhythmic sigh that matches the rest under hypnosis blanket. You become that sigh. You are the space between breaths. The cool marble beneath you, the velvety darkness above, the silver river flowing through it all. They aren't separate things. They are the soft walls of a cocoon woven from the quiet itself. The faint scent of cedar oil? It's the scent of ancient forests dreaming, of roots sinking deep into comforting earth. There are no more questions about time, no more echoes of ping or bongs. Only the profound, wordless understanding that this is the necessary counterpart. This deep, restoring silence is the fertile ground from which all dawns, all clear pings must eventually spring. It's the well refilled, the loom reset, the strategy dissolved so a wiser one can form. Here, in this boundless softness, the frantic energy of gods and mortals alike is gently unraveled, rewoven into something calm, whole, and ready. Ready not for the clamor of councils or the strike of gongs, but simply for the next gentle breath, and the next. Each one a silent tide carrying you further into the vast, welcoming embrace of the deep, where even the moonbeam path fades into the perfect, starless dark of utter, peaceful surrender. Rest now. Just rest. And in this stillness, deeper than any ocean trench, softer than the finest spun twilight fluff, you feel the gentle tug. Not toward sleep, for you are already cradled within its embrace, but deeper still. Down, where thoughts lose their sharp edges, melting like the sacred wax under a dawn yet unborn. Down, where the memory of bronze owls and lentil drops dissolve into the warm, formless dark. The moonlight on the floor isn't just light anymore. It's a path made of liquid silver, cool and soothing against the unseen souls of your spirit, inviting you to walk its length not with steps, but with a sigh that unravels the last knot of wakefulness. The distant whisper of wind through those unseen olive groves below Olympus isn't wind at all now. It's the sound of the world breathing, a slow, rhythmic sigh that matches the rest under hypnosis blanket. You become that sigh. You are the space between breaths. The cool marble beneath you, the velvety darkness above, the silver river flowing through it all. They aren't separate things. They are the soft walls of a cocoon woven from the quiet itself. The faint scent of cedar oil? It's the scent of ancient forests dreaming, of roots sinking deep into comforting earth. There are no more questions about time, no more echoes of ping or bongs. Only the profound, wordless understanding that this is the necessary counterpart. This deep, restoring silence is the fertile ground from which all dawns, all clear pings must eventually spring. It's the well refilled, the loom reset, the strategy dissolved so a wiser one can form. Here, in this boundless softness, the frantic energy of gods and mortals alike is gently unraveled, rewoven into something calm, whole, and ready. Ready not for the clamor of councils or the strike of gongs, but simply for the next gentle breath, and the next, each one a silent tide carrying you further into the vast, welcoming embrace of the deep. Rest now. Just rest.